Good evening and welcome back to the Behind the Leazers podcast. We have had a couple of weeks of R&R, a bit of rest and relaxation, but we're back now to talk about what we would say is probably the dread of Newcastle United, but you never know, maybe some brighter times are ahead. We've got a new manager in Eddie Howe. He's had a couple of weeks training, of course, it's been the international break. A couple of players missing, no sort of massive integral names, I must say. But it's all looking all right, isn't it? Liam Brusby here with Andy, Rob, and of course Adam as well. Andy, how's it going? It's been a couple of weeks. We've had some nice sort of relaxing times. I think just not really worrying about Newcastle, watching England score 20 goals a game. How you doing, pal? You all right?
Mega mate. Yeah, just looking forward to Saturday and looking forward to really kick off the new era now. It feels like I don't know about you lads, but now we've got the new manager in. Bruce is gone. Obviously, the takeover went 3 weeks ago, but it feels like now it's here. Now it's kicking off. So hopefully, start with 3 points against Brentford.
Of course, yeah, we are going to talk about that Brentford game on Saturday. It's about 3 o'clock kickoff in it, so it's not on the telly or anything. But the last podcast that we did, we hadn't actually appointed Eddie Howe, so we'll sort of go quite in depth with that and just what the last couple of weeks has been like. We've got Rob in as well. How are you doing, pal?
Yes, I'm very well, mate. As you say, I've watched a bit of England, not a whole lot, just the highlights. To be honest, it doesn't interest us until we get to a tournament. But it's nice to see that we're winning. I would be very upset if we didn't beat the two teams that were played. But yeah, now just settling myself into what is the reality that is this Saturday. It's going to be a big game, like Andy says. I think it could be on par with the takeover game against Spurs. I think there will be a lot of people buzzing for this one, so I'm very excited.
And Andy signaling 5-0 there. Of course, that was the score prediction, I think, in the last podcast that we did. We've got Adam as well, who once again has been incredibly busy. And you've met the man himself a few times already. How's that experience been?
Yeah, I just met him only the 3 times so far. But yeah, I mean, he is a really sound person. He's always stuck to the fans. He's quite genuine as a person. But yeah, I'm excited now. I know when he first got sort of announced Newcastle, I was really against the guy. I felt like that at that moment of time, we could have got someone better win. But now that he's in there, you see his training session. He's in at 7 o'clock in the morning. He leaves at 7 o'clock at night. So this man, I mean, he's clearly making the work. I mean, the players left about 3 o'clock on the Friday, and he's still waiting off 4 hours before he left. So, I mean, must be getting some serious work done in there, which is great to see from manager. And I'm looking forward to see what he can do against Brentford. I think it's a huge game. And we should be winning regardless of who's in charge, I feel like. So, yeah, he's got a lot of pressure going for him, but I feel like he will be ready.
Of course, we are live on Facebook and YouTube as well. So if you are watching, make sure to put your comments in. Good evening to everyone who is watching as well. Of course, though, Eddie Howe, new Newcastle manager. It's maybe not who we would have wanted a few weeks ago when we were linked with the names of, Unai Emery, Erik ten Hag, Zinedine Zidane of all people as well. But no, Eddie Howe, I think it's just a nice cushion that we're falling on. Of course, as we were going back down to earth. Andy, do you think it was the right appointment for the time?
Good evening. Yeah, mate. I said it while we had Bruce, and I've said it a couple of weeks ago when Howe did get announced. We were crying for Howe when Bruce was here, so why should it be any different now? I'm personally really looking forward to watching us on Saturday. I think it'll be a total difference in the way we're playing. I don't think the 5 at the back will be happening, and I think we will play this positive attacking style of football, which the talent pool we currently have is what we need to be doing. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what Howe can do.
Of course, yeah, I think the City will be absolutely buzzing. War flags are back, of course. I think they've got a nice little display planned as well. Of course, they do their displays pre-game. Rob, will you be at the game on Saturday? And if so, what are you sort of expecting from the crowd and just around the city as well?
Yes, I'll be there for it. I'm really looking forward to it. As I say, to be honest, most international breaks are great because you can just completely forget about Newcastle for 2 weeks because of how bad it normally is. This is the first international break in a long time where I'm actually wishing it would end because I can't wait to get there on Saturday. As I say, the takeover game against Spurs was fantastic. There was so much excitement beforehand, and then obviously it only lasted 12 minutes and when we scored and then they scored 3 and we lost it, so I'm hoping for a very similar build-up, a very similar crowd experience and noise and reaction, but what I'm also hoping for is that that fun will last a little bit longer than 10 minutes. Maybe we can make it to the end of the game with 3 points in the bag, and then hopefully you can enjoy it in the evening as well. So, yeah, hoping for the best. It'll be a good one.
Since Eddie Howe has been appointed in the international break as well, it has given him, I think, a little bit more time to sort of gel with the team. He's done some really nice things. He's done like a nice bonding session. He went out for a meal with the team. He trained at St James's Park as well, quite surprisingly. I've not seen anyone do that since Pellegrini at Man City. It's not very common, but it's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good idea as well, because what he wants to do is basically for these players to visualize what he wants them to be doing on Saturday. So, and that's the big thing with Eddie Howe that I'm really happy to see so far is. Again, it's in a way, Eddie Howe has been away from football from a little bit. He wants to come back to the Premier League. And I know he had 4 fantastic seasons in the Premier League with Bournemouth, but ultimately he was relegated at the end of that spell. And I think a lot of neutrals away from Eddie Howe just remember him as, but didn't he get them relegated in the end? So I almost like the fact that I think Eddie Howe does have that little chip on his shoulder. And in a way, I think he needs the job possibly as much as we need him. And if he can come in here and show the world what he can do, which I think is really important for us, we need someone who's going to really put the hours in and make it work. And doing things like that, changing it up, different tactics, training at the stadium. I think it's all part of that.
And with Eddie Howe, I think he had jobs on the table that he could have gone to. I think Celtic was the sort of widely reported one. I'll come to you next, Adam. We've seen the training sessions, or you have personally seen the training sessions when you've been at the training ground. Does it look quite night and day in terms of, comparing it to Steve Bruce, Graham Jones, whilst they were leading training?
Well, they don't need to say the training session is no difference. Last international break, the Manchester United international break, we trained 4 times in 2 weeks, and the manager went on holiday halfway during the week. I mean, and then compared to now, we trained 6 days in the first week or so. I mean, and the difference as well is the players were going at 9 o'clock and they'll be out by about 1 o'clock, including the manager. Whereas this time, the manager's in at 7 o'clock and he's out at 7 o'clock. I mean, the difference is life and day. More days and the training sessions are longer as well. I mean, it's again, what can I say? I mean, it's just obvious it's going to be a difference. In terms of the training sessions themselves, I watched them. When the sessions are finished, you just see all the players just lying in the floor. Like, all of them just haven't got the fitness anymore. It's just too much for them. But which is embarrassing because, again, the athletes of Premier League football, it just shows the difference between the intensity of the training session between the two managers, and again, proves how neglectful Steve Bruce was at times of this team.
And we saw, on Eddie Howe's, I believe it was his first day or his second day in charge, Newcastle's social media people, they released a training video of how everything worked, and I think Eddie Howe vocally was fantastic. What did you make of the way that they were conducting this training on even that first day?
Well, it's kind of like a hill, training where we can watch people train. Like, just hear Eddie Howe like miles away, they're shouting, he's effing and jeffing. I mean, it's crazy to see, but he's got that vocal voice to him, which is great to see. He's always stopping the play, he's always constantly going on there, lecturing players. He's always got one-on-one with certain players. I mean, it's good to say again, that's what you want to see from a manager. You don't want to see someone that's kind of not even watching the training session or just doing someone else, which is, again, not what a manager should be doing. So the fact that Eddie Howe is in now, he's clearly getting used to the players. He's clearly trying to be friendly to them, but at the same time, of course, being that leader, which is great to see. And I expect on Saturday it's going to make a huge impact. I imagine in the game, even if we don't win the match, I think we'll be the better team in that game, which will just show the difference between previous managers.
In that training video as well, there was a section where Eddie Howe, he's got the ball, he's in the middle of the pack, and he says something. It was, it's not a criticism, it's a different way of training. And I think that sort of alludes to maybe when Steve Bruce or Graham Jones was taking the training, they were probably quite critical with how they sort of conducted their training, and maybe there weren't any sort of ways for improvements. Andy, I'll come to you on this one. Looking at the training videos and hearing the words that Eddie Howe says, I think it would definitely fill the players with a lot more morale, and it would probably motivate them to kick on a little bit more, surely.
Surely, mate. I totally agree, but we've still got to look at the kind of players that we've got. Eddie Howe's a good manager, but he's not a miracle worker, and I think what does kind of bring us back down to ground with it is he's still got the same players that Bruce had until January. We're going to make the incomings in January. It's just waiting on and seeing if he can get the players that haven't been performing so far this season to carry us through to January, and then see what he does when we bring these players in. Otherwise, it's January. I'd hope it wouldn't be too late, but if we're not picking up the results, January can be too late. So we really need to kick and hit the ground running on Saturday against Brentford.
We've had a comment coming in from Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Thanks for tuning into the stream and leaving a comment. It says, obviously, we haven't seen Newcastle United play under Eddie Howe, but how do you think we'll do with him as a manager, and where do you think we'll finish at the end of the season? So I think this sort of alludes to, is he going to be like a long-term position? Is he going to be a long-term manager for the club, or is he just going to be someone who steadies the ship? Rob, I'll come to you on this one first, but I'll go around the room with that comment.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how do I think Eddie Howe, how the players will play under Eddie Howe, I want to see big changes. I want to see humongous changes to this team, not only bringing personnel in, but just the way we play. I think that it's great that we've already seen the changes he's bringing to the training ground. For me, I think Bruce had given up. I think Bruce wanted out. Training 2 times a week, moving up to 5 or 6 days a week. You know, that's not rocket science. That's just actually doing your job. So the fact that he's come in and he's made those changes straight away is great. In terms of personnel on the pitch, I want to see a more attacking, pressing football. This is the kind of football that Eddie Howe wants to play. I want to see Lewis getting a chance at left back, our only fit left back. Let's actually give this guy a go. He had a great time away on international break, so it's almost a shame he missed the training, but it's good that he played some good football. I really want to see some big changes, but I do also agree with Andy, and I sit on the tentative side that it is the same players. And for me to sit here now and think that come Brentford on Saturday, where you're going to have a whole new game plan, and these players are going to be able to actively press from the front with their fitness levels right now, I don't think we're going to be able to do it straight away. But certainly, like this guy said here, for the full season, I'm hoping by the end of the season, we will have sorted ourselves out. And in terms of where I think we'll finish this season, I'll take 17th now.
I think we'll all take 17th, just to make sure we stay up. I'm not expecting top 10 straight away. Adam, I'll come to you next on that question, just about how you think we'll do, in these next few games especially, and where do you think Newcastle will finish at the end of the season, seeing as we have got the new manager in now?
In terms of changes I expect from these players, yes, these players have underperformed this year, but I expect a change in mentality. I think the mentality is under Steve Bruce and even Graham Jones is just to sit back, wait the game out, and if an opportunity comes, take it. And that's been the mentality all season long. But whereas in Eddie Howe, you see what Bournemouth, he's an attacking minded manager. Our mentality now should be to go for games, never mind trying to keep clean sheets, because we haven't kept a single one this season. So if we start off well against Brentford, we put the pressure on. I mean, on paper, we have a better team than them. It's just whether the players can be bored or the fitness is there. But yeah, I feel like on paper, we have got better squads than like City's, Norwich. So we've got to be trying to beat them at home. If we can't beat a team like Brentford at home, I mean, we deserve to be in the bottom 3. It's just how it is these days. But I feel like in terms of changes, though, this season, I expect the mentality to change. And I think over time, the players will gradually get better. I think the fitness levels will get better, meaning they're just going to be better on the ball, etc. So we'll see how things go. And in terms of finishing this season, I expect us to finish about 15th.
15th. We're just in terms of the, talking about fitness, Oliver sums it up pretty well. The players aren't 100% fit, so it will take a few weeks to get used to attacking football. So by about the 65th minute, you would expect some changes. Andy, coming to you on that question as well, just on how you think Eddie Howe will do at the position and where you think we'll finish at the end of the season as well.
Eddie Howe's already proved himself as a club builder with Bournemouth. You saw he brought them up from nothing to the Premier League, and I've heard him, the interview he did, the more personal interview he did with NUFC TV. He talks about how when he joined Bournemouth, they were struggling to pay wages. I'm excited to now see Eddie Howe take a club from, we're already at the Premier League level, but let's see where he can take us. That's what I'm looking forward to. As in terms of this season, it really depends who comes in January and what kind of quality they are, and if they can hit the ground running straight away in this team. Anywhere above, obviously the bottom 3 I'll be happy with, but I'm going to say around the 15th, 14th mark, I think, is where we'll probably end up.
I think it's you look at previous managers, Rafa, Steve Bruce, in their first seasons, it was like 15, 14, 13 position that they finished. So I wouldn't be surprised. Of course, with Eddie Howe, there is a new backroom team. He's brought in Jason Tyndall, as well as Stephen Purchase and Simon Weatherstone, as well as Dan Hodges, who was a sports scientist with them at Bournemouth as well. He's kept Graham Jones on too, so obviously they have worked together whilst they were at Bournemouth. It's good, I think, to see that, you know, a manager's sticking with his roots. He's sticking with the coaches and the people that he's been with for quite a while at Bournemouth, especially. Rob, I'll come to you on this one. Do you think it's quite good that he's brought these people in, like Sir Jason Tyndall?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, what we needed was a ready-made set of staff. To be honest, I think bringing Eddie Howe in was the first great start to bringing in these coaches. But what you need is and we kind of thought, obviously Bruce needed help, and that's why he tried bringing in Graham Jones. Like the fact that these guys have worked together, and I've seen some of the old pictures of Eddie Howe and Jason at Bournemouth, looking a lot younger back when they first started. And having the same shared experience through all that time, he's going to be able to rely on these guys. It's a good thing. It's a normal thing these days that managers do tend to stick with the same people through a lot of their careers. I think it's interesting to see what happens with Graham Jones as well. I don't know whether I was surprised or not that he stayed on. Part of me wanted him to stay at first, and then part of me thought maybe it would be better if we had a complete fresh start. I think the fact that Eddie Howe has decided to keep him on shows that he shows a bit of faith in him as well. And as you say, there is a link through the staff and Graham Jones too. So hopefully it can all be a good fit.
Have my mic on mute. Adam, coming to you next. Of course, we recognise Jason Tyndall from Bournemouth, but do you think he'd be a good fit as the assistant? And of course, Graham Jones second in hand as well for Eddie Howe.
Well, in terms of Jason Tyndall and Graham Jones, they're both act as number twos now. So you got Howe as the top, and then there's two number twos now, which I don't know how that's going to work in the training ground with two different people. I assume that Jason Tyndall is going to have a bigger say than Graham Jones when it comes to training these players. I just feel like over time, Graham Jones will gradually just sort of go out the picture a bit, which is, I mean, some people might say it's sad to say, but I don't know. I just don't really feel like how he's going to fit with these five staff members. I mean, you got rid of Clemens Nag and you bring five people in, so I mean, it's already quite a sort of crowded hierarchy in Newcastle, you could say. But yeah, from what I've seen so far, he interacts now and again, but it's more Jason Tyndall and Eddie Howe that's been kind of in there at the minute. But I mean, with Graham Jones, though, he's been there about 10 months or something now, and again, the England job's always going to be there for him, so if he really wants to, he can just probably go there full time, really. So we'll see what he does in the future, but I don't know how it's going to work personally, but I wish him the best of luck.
Of course, yeah. I think we all want to see Graham Jones do well. He's a local lad, and I think it is nice that he's staying, just because he has obviously worked with Eddie Howe, Jason Tyndall, likes of them. I think we need to look towards January as well. We had a little comment come in before asking who we think our first signer for January would be. Andy, I'll come to you first on who do you reckon we could bring in first in January?
I mean, the rumours have been everywhere, haven't they? It's just baffling to see the players we've been linked with. I mean, would be in dreamland if we land someone like Niklas Süle from Bayern Munich, who we've been heavily linked with. Our main problem going into January is where we'll sit in the league, because if we're out of the relegation zone and we're looking like we can stay up, that's going to be a lot more attractive to players. If we're in that relegation zone and we're going after the big money players, the ones that are going to want to come are the ones that are going to want a high wage packet, and they're not going to give you 100% for the club. So that being said, I'd love to see the likes of James Tarkowski from Burnley come in, solid centre half, and we desperately need a good centre half. Jesse Lingard out of contract at the end of this season. From reports I've seen, around 12 million is an absolute steal. We should be all over that, bringing him in. And just anyone that's going to solidify this team. I think as a front three, maybe a right winger. We're not so strong on the right wing. We've got Maximin on the left, but then if we play a right winger, it tends to be Miggy, who's meant to be a number 10. That being said, Ryan Fraser's a left mid as well, isn't he? We still need to see if Eddie Howe's going to get the best out of him, really, because we haven't seen it since he's been here. So, yeah, other than Tarkowski and Lingard trying to keep my head level with all the rumours that are flying about, but just anyone that's going to help us stay up, really.
Definitely, I think it is all about stability this transfer window, but I think it would still be nice to just see maybe a bit of an unrealistic player come in, just splash a few quid for his wages, and we chuck 50 million at them. It would be a club record. It would be a big risk, but why not? We are the richest club in the world.
Well, outgoings are going to be important too, as well.
Definitely. Do you think there'll be a few outgoings?
Hopefully. I would hope so. I think we all know who I'd love to see out there. Like Shelby. I'd happily drive him. I haven't got a car, but I'd happily drive him to whoever fancies taking him, and Hendrick. But I think there's a couple needs shipped off now. The job's done at Newcastle, and they're not giving us anything. So why should we give them anything? You know what I mean? So just need to start flogging people off.
Of course, and the thing is as well, we've got £200 million to spend, and that's because of, fair play to Mike Ashley, I guess, but it's because of the lack of spending that he did that we're actually out to spend a little bit more now. So we're not really asked about how much we're selling these players for now. So, packet of crisps, and like you said, Andy, you can drive them. Rob, we'll come to you next, pal. First couple of signings for January. Who do you reckon?
Like Andy said, I actually did a video myself yesterday about this, and basically let people tell me who they thought would sign. And honestly, I wouldn't have got the list on both arms, never mind one arm. The amount of people we've been linked with over the last month is just been out of this world. I think it's the same names that are coming up, and I think there's reasons for that. I think Tarkowski, we're desperate for players at the back. I think Ake was one that got linked a lot more recently, and I think that's because of the fact that he's got the link with Eddie Howe. But again, for me, and again, repeating what Andy said, if we can get to January, if Eddie Howe can seriously turn this team round over November, see what we can do in December with much tougher fixtures, and be sat in 15th place going into January, we've technically proven at that point that we can stay up, regardless of if we spend, because that's what you want the January to be an addition, not a save. I don't want to be in the bottom three going, oh dear. Especially with what is being called the protest against Newcastle. Sell it to anyone but Newcastle is supposedly the stance of the other Premier League teams. I can't see it happening. It's like, you look at Tarkowski at Burnley. Are they going to want to sell their best defender to another relegation rival? Probably not. But when he's got 6 months left on his contract and we offer 12 million, they're going to say yes to it. So I can see what people are saying. But again, we will have much better bartering position if we aren't bottom of the league come the January window. So, Tarkowski, Lingard, Ake, just same names, positions that need desperate help.
It's a bit like Hull. I remember Hull signing about 20 players in that January transfer window. Just out of sheer desperation. It was rubbish, like Lazar Markovic, people like that. It's funny they even got Ryan Babel at one point as well.
You just compared us to Hull.
No, I'm not comparing our possible business to Hull. Steve Bruce, former manager of Hull as well, so you've got Adam, coming to you next, mate. You're sitting forward in anticipation here. Oh, you just lean back. But who do you reckon we could sign at first, especially in this next transfer window?
Well, I have actually also made a video on this topic. I feel like Newcastle out should try and get Van de Beek straight away. I don't know how realistic it is, but he is a top level player that's lacking game time and needs an identity, really. So I feel like if he's willing to sort of drop down the levels for Manchester United, I feel like he could go to Newcastle. In terms of our players, there were trying to think. In terms of midfielders, I stuck quite a few of them down, but again, the likes of Lingard, the ones we've already heard loads about, we should be trying to get these sort of players in. But like Andy and Rob already said, though, if we're in the bottom three come Christmas time, it's not going to be a highly attractable place for these players to come over. But and in terms of that Premier League stance as well, I also don't believe. Imagine like a team like Norwich gets relegated. They obviously want to sell the players to get some money in. So I don't believe for 1 second that they're not going to say yes, Newcastle have got all this money. So, yeah, I personally don't agree with that. But in terms of signs, I mean, anyone that improves our teams, that's pretty much any football player out there at the minute. So, yeah, we'll see. We've got to get rid of players straight away, because our squad is full at the minute. Like Mark Gillespie, I feel like have to go. So, we'll see who ends up coming into the club. But I think it will be a very busy transfer window.
Literally anyone who can kick a football, basically.
Yeah.
Fair play. We've just had this comment in from Oliver, just in regards to sporting directors. So there was a lad, Michael Emiliano, I think that's his name, Emiliano, I think, something like that. But he was a director at Chelsea, and he brought in quite a few young players, like Stella De Bruyne, Juan Mata as well. I'm not entirely sure what the update is on that, but Oliver's saying that we need to get a sporting director in by the end of this week. We can't find better players from abroad. Let's not think it's an internal league. There are better players in Europe. Let's not forget we are rich. Andy, I'll come to you on that. Do you agree with what he's saying?
Yeah, I also have to say 10 out of 10 for the Juan pronunciation there, Liam. Yeah, we do. I mean, look who our director's been for the last God knows how long. It's been that bloody bald head idiot Charlie. So yeah, we do need someone that can bring in players, and the big thing we need is the attraction. Like we said, that's the main thing. Going into January, being in a good position. Look, I think if we get 9 points out the next 5 games, that's a win against Brentford, Burnley, and Norwich. I think we're looking good, and we start moving up. But I think what we also need to do is, in looking January, if we're looking like we're going to stay up, definitely start looking at getting players on the pre-contracts. Like, start making the big boy moves early. Like, I'm dreaming, but it's been rumoured the Ousmane Dembele one would be an absolute worldie of a sign, especially on a free. You know what I mean? If Barca can't tie him down, and I think I've seen rumours that he's not too happy with Xavi. But imagine him and Maxi on the wings; it'd be insane. It's just, I said I wasn't going to get carried away. I'm getting carried away. But in short, yes, we need a sporting director. It's something we desperately need. And yeah.
It's a bit like if Ben Arthur played with St Maximin, isn't it?
Oh, don't do it.
It's got that in your head now, haven't
I? Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Just moving on as well. This was something that I think a lot of Newcastle fans were quite happy with. So Gary Hoffman, who is still the chair of the Premier League, has opted to step down from that position at the end of January next year. So big news, I think, in terms of Newcastle fans, because he was heavily involved with possibly blocking the takeover, and it's been a very, very rough 18 months. Adam, you've got a little smile on your face there, because I think that it's quite a good thing for Newcastle's fans, especially, that this has happened. But what do you make of everything?
Well, Gary, mate, don't let it all hit you in the wheel. Deserved it, 100% deserved it. He came in to try and screw Newcastle over. And when the takeover went through, he spits a dummy out, goes, I want to resign. I don't think I can do it anymore. I don't care. Get out. Best luck on your future endeavours. But, yeah, I mean, people can come out and say what they want about this football club, but I don't care. We have this takeover now, and we're going to be on the up. So, in terms of these Premier League chairmen or directors or whatever it may be, I mean, if you're here to try and mess with us, it's not going to happen. It's that simple. And in terms of Gary Hoffman, I mean, should have been there in the first place, and he's eventually had the decency to walk away.
Exactly. The takeover's gone through now, so what else can they really do about it? I know they've gone for that anything except Newcastle move, but it's all a bit silly at the end of the day. Right, we'll move on to talk about the Brentford game now. So very, very important, this game. Brentford in terrible form. I believe they've lost their last 5 games in a row. Rob, I'll come to you first. What changes would you like to see in terms of the starting lineup for this game?
Again, I mean, if we could do a hashtag, it would be hashtag all the changes, hashtag big changes for me. It's honestly, I want to see a completely different, and I think it was Adam touched on it earlier, or Randy, not even just the tactical side of things, but just the actual, the focus of the players actually going out there to win a game. I believe Callum Wilson did a little interview this week where he kind of said things are changing. They would go out onto the pitch, and he pretty much admitted they would just stand and defend. He's said that publicly. So even he's saying, what we were doing was just so far off where we should be. So I'd love to see us. And as he said there, Bournemouth are not in good form. They've given Norwich their first win. They've given Burnley their first win. Surely Newcastle are on the list for getting our first win as well. So I definitely think we need to go out and attack. I want to see 4 at the back. I want to see 2 up front, or at least 1 with 1 behind. And I want to see us go out on the front foot, put some pressure on, and actually try and win a game. Don't just sit around and hope that it magically happens for us. Let's actually have a good attitude and go out there and do something. I think that was what was such a big letdown on the takeover day, was that the fans got so riled up for it and the players didn't. It was just such a downer at the end of the day. And I think, and I hope Eddie Howe is going to make sure to put that wrong to rights this Saturday.
I think in terms of squad morale, it's definitely up there, and it's completely night and day with Steve Bruce or even Graham Jones, you could argue. Andy, I'll come to you next. Do you echo Rob's comments in terms of formation, playing 4 at the back? What sort of tactical changes would you like to see?
4-2-3-1. I think that would be certainly best. I know Rob said he'd like to see us play 2 up top. Maximin's not a striker. He's a winger or a number 10. I know he said he'd like to play number 10. I'd probably be interested to see him play there, but he's not an out-and-out striker. So Wilson is. So I'd like to see Willock come back in, play behind him, where he was playing from January and scoring goals. I've said obviously Dubravka. I want to see Dubravka back in net. We mentioned before Jamal Lewis. He's turned up for Northern Ireland in the international break. So why is he not playing? He's obviously got more pace than Richie and can keep up with the game better than Richie. Look, I like Richie, but the Premier League's getting away from him a bit now. Shaw, Fernandez, these players, I think everyone's dying to see them back in, because I've done my starting 11. I would keep Lascelles in just purely for the fact that he's got a voice on the pitch, because I'd like to see Shaw personally playing a defensive midfield role. But the likes of Kieran Clark, Kraft, all of them on the bench, and probably don't see the light of day coming off of the bench. But yeah, 4 at the back in attack and going forward. Yeah, sorry, I got lost in my comments a bit there, but right. I think it'll be a more positive route football.
Yeah, I don't blame you, mate. I think 4 at the back is what everyone is asking for. Adam, we'll come to you next as well. What sort of changes would you like to see? And then we'll go around the room with the score prediction as well.
In terms of the changes I want to see, it's just the different players. Again, there's so many players out of position. I mean, I asked Graham Jones a couple of weeks ago, why is Jamal Lewis not playing? He comes out and says, oh, well, we didn't play him because he's got a high transfer budget. He's a young lad and we don't want to put the pressure on him. But yeah, you want to play Matt Ritchie, a left back, a guy that is out of position, plays bad week in and week out. And again, why is Fernandez not playing? I don't think he's good enough to start. We've got Emil Kraft, Kieran Clark, and Jamal Lascelles starting. If he's not good enough to start, he'll not be in the bench, he'll be in the reserve. So, I mean, I don't know what the guy's smoking. I mean, yes, he's a lovely person to speak to, but I don't understand his tactical sort of choices. I mean, we all know who's the better football player at Newcastle, and yet the guy that's came in for 10 months as assistant coach. I mean, again, he's a lovely bloke, but I mean, I couldn't believe what he was saying. Like, the video was honest with my channel. Like, I can't believe he's saying this stuff, but yeah, I would immediately get the players in the correct position. I think Kraft is centre half. He hasn't actually been too bad, the last week or so. But again, no, Richie left back. No, please do not play him there. And in terms of R1s, I think one in centre midfield is always a really bad one. I think Joe Willock, when he's played, he used to be in front of a back 5 again. That's not his position. Don't play him there. But Murphy as well, he sometimes plays as a right back. You're not a right back, lads. And you keep going about all day. There's so many players that play out of position, but be a full-back, play it simple and just go for the win. Don't try and do anything fancy. There's no reason to. We need to win the game. I couldn't care less how bad the football is as long as we get the 3 points. And a 4-back against Brentford, there has to be a 4-back. It's criminal if we play a 5-back against a team like them at home. But we'll see what happens in the match. But my main concern is playing players in the correct position. I'm sick of seeing Matt Ritchie left. I do not play him there again.
I completely forgot about Jacob Murphy, I'll be honest. A guy who I actually put on as me player of the season for us, and I'm forgetting about him. Put him at right wing, I think, and it'll do a shift, definitely. But let's go around the room and let's have a score prediction. So, Adam, we'll start with you, mate.
Right, so, mate, 4-0.
4-0. 4-0. Confident. Rob.
I mean, I'll be confident as well. I'm not sure I'm quite 4-0 confident. I I think I was saying 3-1 the other week, but I actually changed it to 2-1 when I did my video the other day. So I'll go back to 3-1. I want to see goals. I would like to see us get a clean sheet as well, but we seem incapable of doing that. So let's do one thing at a time. Let's try and get a win, and then we'll see about the clean sheets in a few games' time.
Of course, mate. Let's do it in stages. Andy, you've
Yeah.
gotten your marker pen out there and written something down. Let's have a look. 5.
5-0, I'm sticking by it.
5-0.
Imagine.
That
would be a good night if that happened.
This is like when Sir Bobby come back and scored 8. Shearer got 5. You're sort of comparing it to that, mate. So I think a lot to live up to, of course. But 5-0 is your prediction. I'm going to say 2-0. Maybe he's not as confident as you guys, but I'd like to see us get the win, definitely. But
Liam, you said San Marino were going to score against England. I can't take your prediction seriously anymore.
I also said that Harry Kane would score a hat-trick against Albania. And what did he do? Perfect hat-trick. Bicycle kick as well. Don't you forget it. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Just like a broken clock. Right. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks so much to everyone who put your comments in as well. We will be back later on this week to discuss the Brentford game, hopefully discuss the win. I say this every single podcast because we've not won yet. But let's hope we can talk about a win on the next one. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Thanks so much to Andy, Rob, and Adam for coming on as well. It's been an absolute pleasure, gents. See you next time. Bye-bye.